Welcome to the Elise podcast, where I help you thrive unapologetically from the inside out. On today's very first podcast, I'm going to talk a little bit about what is perimenopause and how do you know if you're in it? And this is a really big topic that I hear a lot of people talk about on Instagram, all over the web, books, you name it. It is very confusing, and I am here to debunk it. So, first and foremost, there is no formal diagnosis for perimenopause. It is a stage, a transition in life that every single woman will go through. So, the analogy I like to give is what you likely remember really well, which is when you went through puberty as a young girl and you knew what was coming up. You knew that you were going to get a period. Maybe you had a sister or a mom or a friend who was going to tell you about it. You knew that you were going to start developing breasts. You knew that you would start developing hair under your arms. You'd have to maybe shave or wax, and smells might be different under your arms, down below. You had to start washing your face, wear deodorant, all the things. This time was a more exciting time as you started to see your body change for the very first time and become a woman. And for a lot of young girls, it was met with excitement, buying a bra, wearing, a tampon or a pad for the first time, talking to their friends about it, and feeling grown up, because what little girl doesn't want to be more grown up? And it is definitely a stage when you are 11, 12, 13, and you get a period. You don't just all of a sudden become a woman. It is a transition over many years. Perimenopause is exactly that same type of transition, except you are still going to be a badass woman. The main difference is that, well, no one is excited or there to help you hold your hand throughout the way until now. This is what I am here for and what we do a lot at FFWE, which is how we help our clients. So, perimenopause has no official start and typically ends when you have gone 1 year without a period. Now, that data is still somewhat changing, but let's just use that for now. It roughly can last up to 10 years, and it might be hard to know if you're in it until you start to recognize the signs and symptoms. Now, the very first thing we think of with perimenopause is my periods are still normal. And that is very common. The most recognized symptom that I see from women clinically, first and foremost, is lack of motivation. So you might feel like you don't have the same drive to do the things you used to do. You might feel like you just don't want them. Things that used to bring you joy, they just don't anymore. Maybe you used to always go to the gym. Maybe you used to always, go for runs. Maybe you enjoyed food prep on the weekends and you just don't have the desire to do that. So that's typically the very first thing that I notice. However, you might notice your very first sign or symptom is that you've accumulated body fat around your midsection, your belly, your breasts, your hips, your thighs, your arms. So, body fat redistribution tends to be the reason why most women come to see me in the very first place and say, hey, something doesn't feel right. Now, a lot of women also will start to go to their doctor and on maybe on their annual, their physical, they'll say to their doctor, I just don't feel like myself anymore. I can't explain it. I just don't feel good. And I'm starting to notice I've gained a lot of weight. My sleep is starting to become dysregulated. I can't stay sleeping for as long. Things that never used to bother me all of a sudden. I'm getting a lot of, temperature irregulation, maybe not necessarily a full out hot flash, but you're just a little bit hot at night, more irritable. Like I said, things that never bothered you before are starting to bother you. And you start to feel like your overall capacity has gone down. And this can bring a lot of guilt and shame and frustration for women, especially what I like to call high functioning women. So if you're the kind of woman who has gone from morning to night without stopping, then chances are during perimenopause, you're not going to be able to do that anymore. You're going to be more tired. You're going to have less bandwidth and you're going to feel like there's something wrong with you when in reality, there is nothing wrong with you. So let's talk about what physiologically happens to the body. So estrogen and progesterone are your sex hormones that will fluctuate throughout your regular cycle, 28 days, assuming you have a 28-day length cycle. But what starts to happen in perimenopause is that progesterone starts to fall. And progesterone and estrogen are like sisters, but they are twin sisters, but non-identical. This was actually a great analogy given by Dr. J. Tita that I still use for today. So we've got twin sisters, estrogen and progesterone. So estrogen is your fun and sexy and lively sister. She can handle stuff. She's excited. She loves to have the cake and the cookies. Nothing seems to bother her. Whereas progesterone is the more rational sister. She's the one who's going to say, make sure you lock the door, make sure you turn the stove off. Are you sure you got all that stuff done? Make sure you tell mom and dad where you are. Make sure you check in. Progesterone basically is going to keep estrogen in line. So that when progesterone starts to fall, and she's the first one that will fall in perimenopause, it can feel anxiety provoking. So a lot of women will go to their doctors with anxiety, and their doctors will just give them a script for anti-anxiety meds, when in reality, it is that progesterone that is falling really hard. And with that, it takes estrogen with her slowly. So we have the fall of progesterone first, and then estrogen kind of is right beside her there, starting to fall. And with that and estrogen falling, we start to become less stress resilient, which means what bothered us, or what didn't bother us before, I should say, starts to bother us now. And so you might have been able to handle things in your environment. You might have been able to handle multitasking with your job and your kids and your partner and all the things and your friends. And now all of a sudden you barely have bandwidth to get through the day. That is from estrogen falling along with progesterone. You might also feel more anxious. You might just start to notice things differently. The way that you digest food starts to change. Your entire gut microbiome starts to change. So I hear this from women every single day. They say to me, I haven't changed anything in my nutrition and I'm gaining weight. This is why. We start to see that redistribution of fat towards the belly. And it is really the body and the metabolism's way of starting to protect ourselves as we hit into the more closer to menopause years. And so this is what we're going to start to notice. You're, again, going to feel basically like you're not yourself anymore. A lot of women will just say to me, they look in the mirror and they don't recognize who they are. They take a picture of themselves and they can barely recognize them. Who they feel they are is not truly represented by what they look like in the mirror. Their hair is changing, their skin's changing, their skin might be sagging, their eyes are changing, their skin is itchier. And of course, that redistribution of fat can feel extremely frustrating. And so when we look at what is perimenopause, I want you to remember that it is a transition in a woman's life. No matter what your doctor says, there is no diagnosis for are you or are you not in perimenopause. It's going to be something that you're going to have to think about yourself. And where are you in your age and your years? And we see a lot of women in their late 30s in perimenopause, and we see women in their mid 40s. So chances are, if you're over the age of 40, congratulations, you are in perimenopause. But it is the most beautiful transition. Just like when you were a little girl and you were in a rush to get into that woman stage, this is just this transition into that next stage of life. Yes, we want to show compassion. Yes, we have to change the way we think about things, food, movement, lifestyle in general. But this is also a transition in our life that you have the opportunity to reinvent yourself of who you really want to be and how you want to live and what you want to look like for that next phase in your life. And I am here to tell you unapologetically, you can be you, as badass as you want, as sexy as you want, as fucking ripped as you want. I will debunk it all and help you really become that better version. Thank you for joining me. If you want more information, you can go and check me out on Instagram at functionallyfitwithelise.com or my website, www.functionallyfit.com. I'd love to get to know you and hear a little bit more about you.